This is TWiT.
So you may not support the new Tennessee law. First U.S. state protecting musicians from AI. It's the ELVIS Act.
I'm not a fan.
The retronym is for Ensuring Likeness, Voice, and Image Security, ELVIS. Bill Lee signed it into law on Thursday. I mean, you might be a fan of the idea to protect artists from unauthorized use by artificial intelligence, or no?
Well, I'm not on, I mean, in very little of this am I ever on nothing to see here. There's absolutely no policy tension whatsoever. So I think they're, you know, I think the deep fakes can be a problem, but I think
on the other hand,
but not every regulatory solution, especially one rushed through, is going to be a good one that solves it, that doesn't create other problems.
And I love hearing Johnny Cash sing the Barbie Girl song. I just think
there's some really creative things that people can legitimately do. And there's some issues with tightening what we sometimes refer to as like the pseudo-intellectual property doctrines. They are somewhat untethered and not very doctrinally pure, and they end up giving a lot of disproportionate power that does cause a tremendous amount of First Amendment tension.
It's pretty good work. Honestly, I sort of have to stop having, from what I've read of the other output of the Tennessee legislature, you know, these are the people who were in such a rush to let's kick out the outspoken black guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about them.
Yeah.
But it makes me nervous.
So I understand, and this is actually a large, I mean, I brought it up just because of the judicial whimsy, but in this case, the legislative whimsy. But I do think there is a very strong tension between the creatives who want to keep AI from getting involved in their content at all, and people, and I include myself in this group, who think AI should proceed untrammeled because that's the only way you're going to get a really good AI.
So the whole name, image, likeness thing, one of the panels I saw at South by Southwest, in between stuffing free tacos on my face, was SAG-AFTRA's chief negotiator, Duncan Crabtree-Ireland, talking about how the Actors Union brought Hollywood to heel on the subject of AI. But then he said, what we need to deal with deepfakes is some way to control the commercial use of your name, image, and likeness. I don't have a case I can bring when somebody does a deep fake of me trying to undercut SAG-AFTRA's agreement with the studios, which I heard
he's
that
not protected.
Right. But creating new kinds of intellectual property can lead to all kinds of nasty consequences. And I am skeptical that that's how we want to, that should be the first tool we reach for in the drawer. Right. There's my Jersey accent. When we see some misuse of technology.
I agree. I will say drawer as well, just to demonstrate my accent, and also say that, oh, and it's a Florida orange, just so we're clear.
It is an orange. Yes.
It's an orange. It's from Florida. And I will say yes, +1 to what Rob is saying. Like, not to say that there's a lot of the stuff that's happening feels creepy. But just because it feels creepy doesn't mean there should be a law. And even to the extent that there is...
I love that. Underscore that. Just because it feels creepy doesn't mean there ought to be a law.
Right. And to the extent that there should be a law, it should be a careful law, because there be dragons when you start to just ignore the First Amendment. But even to just get off that hobby horse of unintended consequences are rife with any sort of policy action. And I don't think anybody in the Tennessee legislature was fully vetting what the consequences are.
No, they like the name the ELVIS Act. I think
they like the name.
But who's going to vote against Elvis?
But I think there's also an interesting schism, and I don't remember exactly which side was which, but I think, if I'm guessing, the RIAA was on one side and the MPA was actually on the other. And I think one of it was one of the organizations is sort of recognizing that a law like this could impinge certain creative freedom that they were counting on having. Now, maybe for the most cynical, profit-driven reasons possible, but I think if there is that recognition that they can sense that it will impinge on something expressive that they want to do, they may not be wrong. And so it's unusual to have the two organizations not on the same side, but I think in this case they were not on the same side.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of protecting creatives, although, as Corey has pointed out, and as you just pointed out, copyright really is no longer about preserving an individual's right to own their works, but in fact large corporations' right to swoop up every bit of work they can and profit from it.
Well, we've talked before about, training. Like, I think training as a discrete thing really needs to be unfettered. And the way we've talked about it is the right to read. Because if you can read all the books, then your tools can help you read all the books. And if your tools are software helping you read all the books, well, so be it.
I've seen people say, though, why are you saying that a machine or a company reading your stuff is the same as a human reading your stuff? Of course, everybody accepts the right to read for a human, but why should that extend to a company?
You can't use tools. I mean, you can't use Cliff's Notes. You can't, I'm not entirely sure there's a way to say, oh, you can do this, but not this. I don't think there's a logical place to draw that line.
Where do you draw the line?
You can use tools and you can use software tools, because isn't it cool that the software can help you glom onto and process information a lot faster? So if you're using it as a study aid and you want to scan a whole bunch of text and then be able to ask the computer okay, what did you do there?
By the way, I do that all the time.
Okay, so
that's what AI is really good at.
Yeah, so it's basically the same thing. It's an individual behavior, but we're not liking it because this individual behavior is being exercised by a company. And then the company wants to profit from outputs, and so we're cynical about that. But I think you really need to kind of file off the training as an individual discrete thing and say that, no, copyright law does not stand in the way of it. Maybe copyright law stands in the way of some forms of output. Let's have that conversation. But I don't like the way we conflate input-output training, toggling inputs and stuff like that. You have to look at everything on its... Team Nuance will tell you that you need to look everything on an individual, what is going on here, and you can't just conflate things.
I don't often agree with Sam Altman, but he did say if you only allow AI to train on on public domain content, you're not going to get much of an AI.
No, it's going to be a very skewed sample and a very skewed voice, and that's the problem with...
Honestly, we want it to train on everything.
Yeah.
We really want the most content possible. Do you agree, Brianna?
No, I don't.
I didn't think you would.
Hey, now.
That's why I asked.
Cathy, my hope that we can still be friends after this panel is that every lawyer I've ever met loves to argue, and that's why they go into that field. So I hope that at least I can be a good rhetorical.
I just like being right. So
them's fighting words.
Okay. So this is, I was with you as far as the first example, the music. It seems to me that getting the state legislature of Tennessee to adjudicate that is probably not going to lead to good public policy. I would be inclined to let the civil courts figure that out, figure out if damages have been done, let major music labels get involved. That said, you come back to the other, and my principle here is tending to democracy. And I think if you're looking at the media landscape right now, it is in really, really rough shape. It is a bad time to be a media company. I don't care how big or how small you are. So if you're taking something like the entire store of value of decades of New York Times reporting, and AI can just come suck that up, and then I pay for ChatGPT, it can spit that output out and help me analyze stuff. It's a helpful tool for me, clearly. But that is going to affect, the New York Times has invested a ton of money in that information, and it seems like that's just tapping that database. I think that's true across media. There's a huge trend right now where SEO results, if you're trying to get information on tech products, I urge everyone listening to this right now, go look this up. Think about a new graphic card and just go try to find a review of a new graphic card or a new CPU. Those used to happen. They don't happen anymore. And you get a bunch of SEO clickbait garbage that's AI created using just data and performance specs about the piece that doesn't put it in a journalistic context. I want these tools to be built, but I think it's reasonable to say to, everything from the New York Times to GameSpot that, the public needs to access this information, but what you're saying has value, and we don't just want to let AI come along and steal all that value from you. That doesn't seem quite fair to me. I don't know why they shouldn't be paying licensing fees.
Journalist on this panel, I've absolutely agreed that my industry is not great, Bob. So one point I was going to make, we were talking about what the sort of revival of antitrust action. I think the DOJ case brought against Google's display ads business, where Google has set itself up so it is at every level. It's They have a quote from a Google executive in the DOJ complaint that it's as if Goldman and Citibank ran the New York Stock Exchange. It's a bad state of affairs. The programmatic ad industry, I don't think, is serving readers or publishers very well. It's working great for Google, and it's a convenient monopoly. And that's a case where you have the vast majority of state AGs in the U.S. also thinking that Google is up to no good. So to sort of circle back to Apple, I don't think that work is on the same level as the Google Display Ads case.
Hey, thank you for watching this little snippet from our big show, the News Roundtable This Week in Tech. I'm Leo Laporte. Each week we cover the week's tech news, in-depth analysis, but it's also fun and engaging. You'll find it at twit.tv along with all of our shows. And if you want more, just hit the subscribe button, and we'll be sure to bring you a lot more great content. Thanks for listening.